Ever feel like you're just constantly trying to keep up? With all the new information, the tech, the skills, it feels like the world's changing gears so fast, and there's this pressure to stay relevant. Well, that feeling. It brings us right to today's deep dive. We're unpacking a pretty provocative statement from a major tech figure that's really got people talking. We're talking about Mark Zuckerberg. Specifically, his recent criticisms of higher education.
That's right.
He was on this past weekend podcast with Theo Vaughn. This was back in May 2025. And, well, he basically asked if universities are actually preparing students for today's job market. And Zuckerberg, famously dropped out of Harvard himself. So our mission today is to really dig into that. We'll look at his claims, see what the academic evidence says, and reflect on the challenges and, frankly, the opportunities for higher ed now.
Yeah, and it's such a core question, isn't it? It's not just about Zuckerberg. It hits at something fundamental. What is the main job of a university today? Is it about forming citizens, training professionals? Exactly. Or can it be both? This is a global question for these institutions.
Totally. So for you listening, here's what we'll cover. We'll get into Zuckerberg's specific points, then look at the hard numbers, student debt, job fit, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But we'll also talk about the other value of university, the less tangible stuff, and finally explore some ideas for the future, some potential solutions. Okay, so let's start with the spark. That quote from Zuckerberg. "I'm not sure that college is preparing people for the jobs they need today."
It's pretty direct.
It really is. And there's that irony, right? Coming from him, a Harvard dropout who built Meta. But to be fair, he did acknowledge some personal value. He mentioned meeting his wife, Priscilla Chan, there.
Right. And key collaborators, too.
Yeah, people crucial for Facebook's start.
Yeah.
So it's like the connections, the environment maybe mattered more than the classes for him.
Well, what's really interesting is he's not alone in thinking this way. You hear similar things from other tech leaders.
Like who?
Tim Cook at Apple, for example. Even Jamie Dimon in finance. They've often said they value practical skills, sometimes over a traditional degree, especially in tech.
Right. Things are moving so fast there.
Exactly. It signals a real shift where what you can do might matter more than the paper you hold.
So, okay, it's not just one guy's opinion. It's a trend in certain industries. But does the data back this up more broadly? Is there a real disconnect? Let's look at the numbers, because they are. Oh, they're quite striking. There was a study by Indeed finding that 51%, like half of Gen Z in the U.S. feel their degree wasn't worth the cost.
Half? Wow.
Yeah. And then you look at the cost itself. U.S. university tuition. It jumped somewhere between 32% and 45% in the last decade alone, which leads to average graduate debt over $29,000. That's a serious gamble if you're not sure about the payoff.
It really is, and it makes you ask why. Why this feeling, this disconnect? I think the core issue is speed, technology, especially AI, programming, data analytics. It evolves so incredibly fast.
Much faster than curricula can change.
Precisely. Academic programs, they just struggle to keep pace. There was a piece in the Journal of Higher Education in 2023. It pointed out that many computer science programs, even now, might lack really up-to-date modules on things like generative AI or machine learning.
Which are fundamental skills at places like Meta or Google.
Absolutely foundational. So you see this mismatch, and it pushes people to look elsewhere. A Deloitte report found about a third of Gen Z and millennials are actually choosing non-university paths. They see platforms like Coursera or LinkedIn Learning as maybe more effective for getting those practical, job-ready skills.
It sounds like universities are kind of built for marathon running in a world that demands sprinting sometimes.
That's a good way to put it.
So connecting this back to the debt, what does this skills gap mean for that massive student loan burden?
Well, when you zoom out, the total U.S. student debt is what, over $1.74 trillion now?
It's staggering.
It is. Affecting more than 24 million people. And it's not just, an individual problem. It acts like this drag on the whole economy. It impacts home buying, starting businesses. It can really reinforce existing inequalities.
Yeah.
And this isn't just a U.S. thing, though the scale is unique. You see similar issues elsewhere, like in Colombia, where graduates might struggle to find work in their field. It feeds that perception, and a degree doesn't automatically mean a good job.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Despite the valid criticisms, the data, Zuckerberg himself points to the personal value he got at Harvard.
Right. Meeting his wife, the collaborator.
Exactly. It's like the university as a place for growing up, for making those human connections. Maybe that's the value proposition that's being undersold.
That's a crucial point. There's this duality. We focus so much on job training, but universities do more. Studies like one in higher education research and development from 2022, they really emphasize the role of universities in developing soft skills.
Things like teamwork, communication.
Exactly. Empathy, collaboration, critical thinking, adaptability. Skills that actually the modern workforce values more and more.
Even if they're harder to, like, put on a resume.
Precisely. They're not always line items in the curriculum, but they're developed through the whole experience. The challenge is, how do you articulate that value? How do you measure it?
Yeah, how do you quantify empathy for an employer who wants to see a specific coding certificate?
Yeah.
It's tough. And for you listening, think about your own path. What non-academic stuff, what connections or personal growth really stand out? Often it's those things, isn't it? So, okay, we've talked about the problem, the disconnect, the debt, but also this other kind of value. What about solutions? How can higher ed adapt without losing its soul, basically?
Well, there's several promising ideas bubbling up. One big one is making curricula much more flexible and current. Things like micro-credentials are gaining traction.
Can you explain that a bit?
Sure. Imagine getting a specific university-verified certificate in, say, AI ethics or advanced data visualization, maybe in just a few months. Not a full degree, but a targeted skill. MIT Technology Review wrote about this in 2024, showing how these micro-credentials can really boost employability because they're so targeted and current.
That sounds really responsive, almost like building blocks.
Kind of, and it addresses that speed issue we talked about. Universities could partner more closely with companies to design these.
But wouldn't that be a huge shift for traditional universities? How quickly can these big institutions really pivot? What's holding things back?
That's the multi-trillion-dollar question, isn't it? There are definitely hurdles. First, constantly updating courses and creating these new micro-programs takes serious resources. Money, faculty time, training. It's a big lift.
Especially for institutions maybe already stretched thin.
Exactly. And then there's, frankly, institutional inertia. Universities have centuries of tradition. They can be resistant to changes that seem too market-driven, worrying it might dilute the core academic mission.
So it's finding that balance between practical skills and critical thinking, personal development.
It's a very delicate balance. How do you stay relevant to the job market without becoming purely vocational training?
Right. And these challenges aren't just in the U.S., are they? The context varies globally.
Oh, absolutely. Economic accessibility is a huge piece of the puzzle everywhere. Policies like scholarships, subsidies, maybe income-based loan repayment, they're crucial. But you also have to remember, in many parts of the world, like Latin America, for instance, the biggest challenge isn't just the cost or relevance of university, it's basic access. Getting broad segments of the population into higher education at all is still the primary struggle.
So the problems, and therefore the solutions, look different depending on where you are.
Definitely. It's a complex global picture.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway here? This whole debate, sparked by Zuckerberg, but clearly much bigger, it's not just, is college worth it? Is it?
No, not at all.
It feels like a much deeper call to rethink what higher education is for in this, super digital, fast-changing world.
I think that's right. It's about preparing people not just for a job, but for a life of adaptation. Universities need to evolve. Their role isn't just producing skilled workers, but also, maybe more importantly, fostering resilient, adaptable citizens, people who can navigate complexity, who can learn continuously.
Yeah. Citizens ready for the 21st century, whatever it throws at us.
The value isn't vanishing, it's just shifting, and institutions need to shift with it.
So we've dug into the criticisms, the data, that enduring personal side, and some potential ways forward. Here's a final thought for you, something to chew on. In an age where almost any information is instantly available online, what actually makes a formal education uniquely valuable? And maybe what responsibility do we all have now as individuals to kind of curate our own learning, to build our own curriculum for success and, for a fulfilling life beyond just what institutions offer? Lots to think about there. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning, keep learning, and definitely keep adapting.